Wonderful. Hi again, everybody. I'm Dr. Amanda Dye from Beyond Barnard and excited to welcome you all here to this info session to hear more about your pathway into IEOR at Columbia Engineering. Next slide, please, Claire. I think you may have, oh, okay. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the pathway, understanding how to apply, understanding prerequisites, et cetera, et cetera. And we wanted to start just by, kind of grounding you all in the idea that the 4+1 pathways were created to allow students to combine their studies in liberal arts with studies in engineering or with other kinds of graduate programs at Columbia in an efficient way, in a way that hopefully saves you some tuition dollars in the long run, and a way that helps you to really build upon your liberal arts coursework. Next slide, please. Today we're doing a bunch of different info sessions, and this session in particular is focusing on the pathway into industrial engineering and operations research, which we will abbreviate IEOR. This is a pathway that aligns really well with economics and math and economics and statistics majors, although it is possible for other majors to participate, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We also offer many other 4+1 pathways, including in chemical and biomedical engineering, applied physics, applied math, civil, electrical, mechanical engineering, all of which we just did an info session about at noon. And if you're also interested in computer science, you can come back again and join us at 4 p.m. this afternoon to hear about the 4+1 pathway with the computer science program at Columbia Engineering. Next slide, please, Claire. I'm here just to tell you a little bit about kind of how you can find out more information after this session. Firstly, we here at Beyond Barnard are always available to talk about how pathways might fit with your specific academic interests, as well as your longer term goals, kind of what's the value of adding this degree for you specifically. We also work with our colleagues at Columbia really closely on understanding, just how to manage the applications. So we're able to talk with you about basic application requirements, make sure you understand application deadlines and components, and we can provide support as you build the application, including talking about or reviewing your personal statement or your resume, and talking about how to solicit potential references for the application. You'll also, as part of your journey to applying to a 4+1, be working with faculty members, both the Barnard faculty lead who is here, but also your own major advisor, right? You want to understand how well things are going academically. You want to make sure before you even think about applying for a graduate degree that you know that you're going to finish your undergraduate requirements on time and successfully. Faculty conversations can also be helpful in understanding how your major and minor might intersect with your longer term academic goals, and talking through when you might take particular courses from the engineering master's program. On Columbia's side, administrators, advisors, and faculty are available to help students who are admitted to the 4+1 pathways or applying to them to understand curricula for the various programs, to understand requirements for each concentration. There are not literally countless, but a lot of different options within programs at Columbia, and concentrations can differ in terms of exactly what you might be doing in that master's degree. Our colleagues in the admissions department at Columbia Engineering are available to help with application logistics because they do manage the actual physical or digital application that you will be submitting. And once you matriculate into a Columbia Engineering program, you have access to additional advising like career support through the Columbia program as well. So today we are going to talk about a couple of different things. Next slide, please. We'll talk a little bit about application timeline and process. Then we'll talk specifically about pathways within IEOR that are available, the curriculum, resources that you want to be aware of as you are exploring and potentially applying for this pathway. And then we'll open it up to you for questions. So to get things started with the application timeline and process, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Natasha, from Columbia Engineering Admissions.
Thank you so much. My name is Natasha Stanislaus. I'm with the Office of Graduate Admissions at Columbia Engineering. We are the team that coordinates with all the academic departments to make sure that the application process is going as smoothly as possible. So, if you ever have any questions about your application, a form isn't working as you intended, you have a question about a requirement. As you can tell, there's a lot of people here happy to help, but I myself happy to help as well. So you can always reach out to me or my graduate admissions team as a whole. So I'll talk a little bit about the application timeline. It's a lot of information we'll be sharing with you today, but up on this next slide, you'll see the timeline, which we have every single year. The dates are the same. We open the applications early September, technically late August. The application would be due your junior year in February, February 15th. And then we hope to release decisions in the month of May so that as you're planning ahead for your senior year and registering for courses, you also know what the next phase of your academic and professional future will look like. So the goal of the application is to make sure that it's as straightforward as possible, but that you're using your junior year to have one foot in the door of grad school. You're starting the process of being a graduate student. Then in your senior year, you're completing your requirements, any prerequisites that are required for the program, the pathway you're pursuing. You'll also, of course, being your senior year at Barnard, you'll be graduating. But academically, you'll have the opportunity to take, depending on your journey, probably up to 12 credits. And that's what we refer to as advanced standing, that you're taking courses at the graduate level. You're not transferring the credits over, but that you're really working towards your graduate requirements in tandem with closing out your Barnard degree. And so, most importantly, those courses can't count twice. But the idea is that you're working alongside your academic department as well as your future academic department at SEAS to complete requirements so that you're really making sure that you're chipping away substantially at this degree program before you officially start. And in that senior year is when you complete what we would refer to as your completion app. It's when you say and you sign on the dotted line, so to speak, yes, I will be enrolling in a master's program at Columbia Engineering and I will complete my degree even though I have already started towards my degree progress. So that's something that you can do in your senior year. So you're really, again, making sure that you're using your junior year to step towards graduate school, but your senior year to officially matriculate and enroll, as well as to complete the ending requirements of your Barnard degree. You can't be two places at once. So you will need to graduate from Barnard before officially being a matriculated master's student at Columbia Engineering. And so for this next slide, we'll look at the actual application requirements. We've tried to make it as straightforward, as simple as possible. So on the application itself, you'll be able to show your transcripts. We don't need official transcripts sent from the registrar. That usually costs a few dollars, like the money adds up. We just need a copy of those transcripts for the admissions process. So if you have a copy, that's totally fine. If offered admission, we'll be able to figure out the rest later. But we just want to know academically, do you have the right GPA that shows that you're ready for graduate study? And have you taken the necessary courses? We'll also, of course, look at your personal statement to understand your goals, your interests, your resume and CV to understand your academics, your leadership, any professional internships you've pursued. And we'll also look for the contact information for three reference providers. So for this admissions process, we've shortened the application. So we actually don't need the letters from your references right away. We might reach out to them. But you're able to just indicate three faculty that can support your application. We'll also waive the GRE and we'll waive the application fee. We're doing our part to make sure it's as straightforward and streamlined as an application process can be for grad school. But of course, we really want to know your academics and what you've been doing at Barnard. So the personal statement, the transcript, your resume, like these are all incredibly important parts to put the work into. And so I know I've talked rather quickly because I am from New York, but the next slide will show the application frequently asked questions. And I think the main thing we want to just do is make sure that these questions are answered before I leave. So, of course, the first question is if admission to the MS program from the pathway guaranteed. If you had the GPA in your junior year and you applied for the pathway, is it automatic that you'll just enroll in the master's? And the honest answer is no. It's not automatic. I think a good way to consider it is as conditional admission. You're in your junior year saying, yes, I would like to be a graduate student at Columbia Engineering. Yes, I have academically what it takes, and I'm working in that direction. But you do need to follow your advisor's direction, take the necessary courses, and keep that GPA up in order to formally be admitted into the program. The next question that often comes up is about funding. And I think part of it, the confusion is because we did make the admissions process so straightforward, sometimes students forget that undergraduate admissions and graduate admissions funding is very, very different. Now, I'm sure for Barnard, you submitted the FAFSA. You submitted the CSS profile. You worked with the financial aid office. They worked with your family as much as possible to meet your expected family contribution. That doesn't quite exist in grad admissions, especially for master's programs where you're expected to self-fund your degrees and then get the return on your investment in industry and in the salary that you earn. That being said, there are fellowship opportunities that you can pursue. I believe Beyond Barnard will often share opportunities to help finance your graduate education. But the principal advantage of the pathway program is not only is your admissions process a little bit earlier and streamlined, but also your time in the program is streamlined as well, so that as you're enrolling in graduate degree credits, you're finishing out your Barnard degree. And so by the time you officially are a Master's of Science student, you're almost halfway there. You're saving money, you're saving time in grad school. You can also use that time in grad school to pursue internships and to really be able to work on your job search as well. And so there is a financial advantage to pursuing the program, but you're not going to get the same type of financial aid you did for undergrad for your graduate courses. So you definitely want to look for opportunities, especially opportunities that may be specifically designed to financially support those from underrepresented backgrounds as they pursue grad school. And last but not least, what other application options are available? Maybe you're looking at the 3.5 GPA and you're thinking, well, I'm at 3.4, or I'm not 100% sure if right after Barnard I want to head straight into graduate school. It's totally up to you, but there is the MS Express application. It's not an express degree. It's an express application type for recent graduates of Barnard, General Studies, Columbia College. You're able to submit a similar application that's a bit shorter than our normal admissions process. But the GPA requirement, I believe, is like a 3.3. I know towards the pandemic, sometimes depending on a number of different outsized situations, the GPA, the requirement might shift a bit. But it gives you an opportunity to go out and get maybe a year work experience, or maybe to start an internship or a fellowship somewhere before applying. So know that you can absolutely take advantage of your time as a Barnard student and pursue graduate level coursework and the mentorship and wait before applying to Columbia Engineering if you don't think the pathway is quite for you. But I think all in all, the pathway tends to be the best bang for your buck and your time, so that you're able to start working towards grad school as a senior at Barnard. So I think that's it for me in terms of admissions information. That was a lot at once, but the admissions team will be offering help desk hours and opportunities for you to ask any questions you have about the admissions process.
Thanks so much, Natasha. Now I'm going to hand it over to Professor Rebeck from Barnard's Economics Department to talk a little bit about preparing for IEOR applications from the Barnard side, and then we'll have some additional thoughts from Kelly in IEOR's department itself about kind of understanding options within the degree program. So, Professor Rebeck.
Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, hi, I'm Randall Reback. My home is in the economics department at Barnard. And like all Barnard economics faculty, my office hours will be posted on the faculty part of the department webpage. And that'll be updated for the next semester. For in-person meetings, which I always prefer, I share an appointment link where you can sign up for the in-person meeting. But if you're unavailable to meet me at any of those times, of course, you can email me and as a backup, we could always meet like this over Zoom, and I can answer your questions that way. Yeah, and I can talk about the typical approach for course planning. So as was said already, the most common major that students have had who are interested in the IEOR 4+1 is the economics and mathematics major. And there is some convenience of that. It's the only version of our major where if you do go ahead and actually do the IEOR 4+1, all four of the required courses that I'll talk about soon can actually count towards that undergraduate major. All four of the prerequisite courses, but that doesn't mean you have to do economics math track by any means. The other common routes that could also work well, in particular, are economics and statistics track, but also even people. I've had a student who was an economics major and minoring in mathematical sciences, where a lot of the same prerequisite courses can actually just count for that minor. I could imagine someone being a major not even in economics and fulfilling a lot of these same prerequisites. And it depends on your interests, of course, and which particular specialization within the IOR 4+1, because there are various specializations, right? So if you're interested in the business analytics one, that might be a little different than if you're interested in a different specialization in terms of how important taking a lot of economics would be to prepare you, as opposed to doing the minimum prerequisites. So these are the four courses that are prerequisites. This is what I'm always, when students are saying they're even just considering the IOR 4+1, this is what I push them towards. And in particular, the third one, multivariable calculus, I always encourage students to take that one as early as possible because it often helps them do well in subsequent courses, helps them prepare for both economics, statistics, and mathematics courses later. The most common one is the UN 1201. That's the most common one that Barnard students do, but of course the other one will count as well if you want to take it directly with C's. And the other four, intro to prob stat, most commonly, again, students have done stat 4001 for that, but you can do the IOR version. And linear algebra, really, you can do any of those varieties. Now, the one strange thing with option value is foundation of data science can only be used for your undergraduate major for only if you do economics math and actually enter and do the IOR 4+1. If not, so basically doing the econ math major and applying to IOR 4+1, we're being kind of I don't know, flexible is a good word for it, and letting you use foundations of data science instead of a math elective. But that's only to help you fit things in if you want to do IOR 4+1. If you do econ math and change your mind and don't want to do IOR 4+1, which is fine, then you would have to end up taking one extra math elective because you cannot count foundation of data science. But again, all the other three courses all definitely count towards your econ math major and can also be useful for other majors and minors.
Fantastic. And then I'll hand it over to Kelly to tell us a little bit more.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelly Katsigris. I'm an academic advisor within the IOR department. So I'm here to answer any questions. If you have anything for the IOR department specifically, we can kind of go over that as well. I don't know if I have another slide as well, but yeah, I can just go over our programs. So we do have a couple programs for our MS students. First one is operations research. So as you can see here, it's a total of 30 credits. This, as well as I think in the next slide, it's going to be industrial engineering. It's 30 credits. So usually students finish within 2 to 3 semesters, but like everyone mentioned before, you can take advantage of taking courses earlier and kind of getting started a little bit earlier. But there are definitely some caveats for that. So we want to make sure to go over that as well. Going back to the actual program itself, it can start in January fall or the spring. So the MS in OR and IE, so operations research and then industrial engineering, those two are 30 credits and they can start in the fall or the spring. Generally though, since you'll be coming from Barnard and it's the 4+1 program, if you decide to do that, you would be starting in the fall. All right, sorry, I kind of skipped over a little bit, but industrial engineering, again, very similar to OR. And then the next one, I believe, is, yep, financial engineering. This one is 36 credits. So it is a little bit longer. You do pay per credit when you're in the MS program. So again, if you can take advantage of starting earlier, that's great. So you won't have to do as many credits in while you're in your MS program. So I don't know if we're kind of going to go over that a little bit more, but I can go into a little bit more detail about transferring credits if we would like. So if you are going to transfer anything, like Natasha mentioned, you can't use it twice, or you can't use it the same thing twice. So if you're going to consider transferring a credit, you cannot use it at all towards your Barnard degree. We can go into a little more detail, or you can definitely email me, set up a meeting with me. I can put my link here if you guys would like. You can also set up a meeting with me and we can talk about what you might want to consider if you're considering waiving or transferring down the line. And this is something that you'd probably consider, like everyone mentioned, your senior year. All right, so MS in Business Analytics. This is also 36 credits, and you're going to go into things like healthcare analytics, marketing analytics once you graduate with this degree. There are a lot of different options for all of our MS programs. We do have a lot of information on our website about careers that students that are alumni have after they graduate, so it's definitely a great place to look. We do have career placement officers for all of our MS programs, so you can also talk to them once you're in the program, kind of get an idea of where you can end up, and you'll be able to meet with them again once you're in the program. And then very similarly to the others that we had mentioned, this one is 36 credits, management, science, engineering. This one, as well as business analytics, you're going to be able to take a lot of business school classes. So that's the great thing about MS&E and MSBA. They both are in partnership with the Columbia Business School, and you'll actually have to take credits for this one with the business school. And like I mentioned, you're going to have a career placement coach or officer, and they're going to be able to help you, decide what you want to do going forward, help you with your interview, your resume for the job that you're interested in. You're also going to have a faculty advisor, so you're going to be able to meet with faculty if you have questions about the curriculum. As an academic advisor, can help you and try to figure out how you're going to graduate, what you should be taking. But in terms of like the actual details of curriculum, the faculty advisor is going to be really helpful as well. And then of course, academic affairs team, which is me and my team, we can help with those things like graduation, registration, things like that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so that's really the core of our presentation. I know it's a lot of information, but we're here to help and discuss. So if anyone who's listening has a question, you're welcome to use the hand raise function or to pop questions in the chat, and we can talk through anything that is mysterious. Well, we have somebody, Jesha.
Hi, I'm Jesha. I'm a junior and I'm really interested in applying to the 4+1 program, and this session was really helpful, so thank you so much. I've been to these sessions earlier, but obviously this one was more helpful than the last because I was, again, just more clear about what I want to do. I'm done with all the requirements for the program that you need to apply. All four, I'm done with them. My question was, I have a couple of questions. The first one was, are you looking at these 4 classes grades more than you're looking at the GPA, or like how do these classes kind of play a role in the application review process? That was my first question. If you want to answer that, then I can.
Yeah, so sorry, was the question how does the school look at the grades for those 4 courses in terms of your application instead of the overall like GPA or
Yes. Yes.
I can kind of answer that. I can't give you too much on my end. I don't go over applications personally. Well, I generally I want to give you an answer. So I think it's really important to focus on those courses because that's what's going to really help you in terms of having what you need going into the MS program. So if we're focusing on those that you're taking them and then also the grades that you're getting in them, just to see how you're doing, how you feel taking these kinds of courses, that kind of thing. Like we mentioned before, the GPA is important, but we do encourage that people apply, even if you're not so sure about it. I think that unless someone else has a different answer than me.
I was just curious. I'm above the GPA requirement. I was just curious
Perfect.
about like how it
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
because we
plays
always
in
want to
because
encourage, to you to apply, especially if you've already taken those courses. That's great.
I have, yeah.
But yeah, no, that's great that you've taken them, and then your GPA is what you need as well. That's amazing.
Okay, yeah, that was my first question. My second question was, are applications rolling, or is it at the end of the application season, you just review all the applications? Because then I'd like to get in my application as soon as possible.
I don't believe it's rolling. The yeah, I know Natasha's shaking her head no. So you definitely want to get it in by February 15th. If you have any questions about it, please let us know. But yeah, that's definitely something that you'd want to make sure you meet that deadline.
Definitely. Thank you so much for this. I will be booking an appointment to meet with you later, so thank you so much.
Nice, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Other questions? For our presenters, any common questions that you've heard from students in the past that might be helpful to raise here?
I think a big one is like the transferring and waiving of courses. I think it's tough to kind of get a good idea. So, again, we can always meet, but transferring again, you're going to want to make sure it's going beyond any of the credits that you're using at all towards your undergrad. So, if you're taking a course that you'd like to transfer, again, definitely reach out. We can talk about it. But yeah, there are a couple of things that you have to make sure you look out for. I know there are no financial aid, but is there any assistance for Columbia provides for FLI students?
That's first generation low income students. Any programs that folks should be aware of?
Not on the IOR side. Natasha, are there any that they should be aware of, generally?
Yeah, so it's not so much that we don't provide aid, is that we're not providing aid like you would at undergraduate level. And so, really, any fellowship that you're looking to, for eligibility for, you could apply for. And so we email out if we think you qualify. Like maybe there's one that's focused on a certain region of the world. Maybe there's one that's focused on a specific discipline within engineering. It's just, I think, a bit it is important mentally to prepare yourself for that difference because you're not submitting a FAFSA and getting a financial aid package that like takes everything in account for your time in the program. You're really on your own for at least figuring out like what it could look like. I think loans, quite honestly, are very common. I know no one wants to think of loans as financial aid, but technically being able to get loans that help you finance your degree so that you're able to take care of them afterwards is financial aid. But to just explore different scholarship opportunities, big, small, and to also take into account that since you're more or less starting the program with advanced standing, your true graduate experience won't have the full like 30 to 36 credits because you'll probably come in with around 12 to kind of shorten the financial burden.
And it's a great point. It's really important to maximize the number of credits that you can take as an undergraduate because that'll help you take those at the Barnard tuition rate, which is going to be more favorable, and of course with your financial aid applied. And for master's degrees generally, they are expensive. It's good to be thinking about the kinds of external scholarships that you might apply for and it's rarer at the graduate level to get a single scholarship that kind of just takes care of everything and a little bit more common for people to apply for multiple, maybe smaller dollar scholarships so that hopefully at the end of the day, what you have is a combination of some scholarship aid and some in loans. But it's always very individualized and exactly what you're doing, maybe aspects of your own background or identities can come into play in terms of the kinds of opportunities that you are eligible for. It's a good question though. Any others? Well, while we're waiting, I'll say you are super welcome to contact us here at Beyond Barnard. If you've got questions, we're happy to connect you with the right person to answer them. We have a question. Saria?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to ask, if we're admitted to the program, is there a maximum number of IEOR credits that we'd be able to take during our undergrad?
Natasha, I think maybe you're the best person.
Yeah, I think my understanding is on paper it's 15. I don't know how you take 15 credits your senior year of undergrad while also completing undergraduate requirements. It's more likely that it will be 12 credits that you're able to take within IEOR before you officially graduate from Barnard and start the IEOR program.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Kelly, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was gonna go off of what Natasha was saying. You really do have to plan kind of a little more ahead sometimes, if you're going to take full advantage of, technically 15. But that is something that is pretty ambitious. So, I wouldn't really recommend it if you're, in your senior year, for example, and you've already gotten in and you're trying to go above all of the credits that you've already taken or that you need for your undergrad. It's just a good way to be able to take, maybe a couple credits here and there to go into MS, to maybe lighten the load of, taking those credits when you're in your MS program. But yeah, if you plan ahead, if you'd like to plan ahead with me or, I'm guessing with Beyond Barnard as well, but specifically me for IEOR, if you're really trying to get into some courses, you can always ask. It can be a little difficult to get into IEOR courses depending on, if you're waiting to go into cross registration and then you have to wait until, for example, January to apply or to go in for the spring. It can, you kind of have to see what you can and cannot take. So you can always ask us about that.
Thank you so much.
And we have an additional question in the chat about if we publish statistics on average GPA of accepted applicants. Not aware of any like broad statistics over the pathway. I mean, Natasha, maybe you could speak to this generally, but like my impression is that the range of accepted GPAs is kind of, everything above a 3.5 essentially.
Correct. We don't really publish stats for any of our programs, and it's less to withhold information and more because things are technically subject to change from year to year. And what we don't want are for students to feel like, well, if I don't follow this class profile of an average, then I shouldn't even bother applying. And so because we already have a requirement threshold for your GPA as part of the application process. And quite frankly, because we want Barnard students. That's why we created the pathway. That's why we have the process, because we know you're across the street, so to speak, and that you're able to handle the coursework. That typically those who get admitted are right at that threshold or right around it. And that's, intentional that we're building in a cohort of students coming in from Barnard that we know academically are prepared for that graduate level study. And then quite, bluntly, we have students from all around the world. We have all sorts of different types of degree programs represented, and those transcripts are all different. And so even making a one-to-one comparison on GPA sometimes doesn't tell the full story. At least if we can say, oh, this is the requirement for the Barnard program, everyone's, sharing the same major or, in the same school and it's a similar grading scale. But generally speaking, like the GPA is pretty close and either slightly under or over the threshold requirement for the pathway.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to add on top of that, Natasha, I know you mentioned MS Express earlier as well as another way to apply. So I know you mentioned GPA, and if you're not sure if you're going to have the GPA that you need, so if it is below that 3.5, or if it's kind of late in the process, you've kind of found out about this a little later in your degree program. You might want to consider MS Express. There's nothing really stopping you from applying from Barnard 4+1. And then, if needed, you might want to consider MS Express if, you don't have what you need to actually kind of get admitted, I guess. But there's nothing stopping you from looking at MS Express your senior year as well.
Awesome, thank you. I wanted to add one piece of advice that I thought was really helpful from our previous session about some different pathways at the engineering program, at the engineering school, is we're just across the street from Columbia Engineering, and it's a really good idea, especially for those of you who are first and second years in the room, to try to engage with the department before you decide about whether you want to apply. Academic departments do tons of research. They invite speakers. They have all sorts of events, and if you, kind of plug into what's going on in IEOR and maybe start to attend some events that align with your specific interests, you can actually get a really good idea of the kinds of intellectual work that people do in these fields, and really assess, I think, a lot more clearly whether or not this is something that you're interested in, spending a year after undergraduate building expertise in. So really do encourage everyone to check out events that are upcoming in the department, and of course across Columbia's programs, as they might relate to your specific interests. And of course, to think about the everyday, right? What are you going to be doing as part of this pathway if you decide to commit to it? I'm not seeing any other questions. So I think we'll say thank you so much to our presenters for being here, for sharing this information. Thanks to everyone who attended today, and we wish you luck in the application and of course in the upcoming finals season. Have a great afternoon, everybody. See you soon.